First thing that you'll learn about me is that I am a very open person. And as an open person, if you ask me what's wrong, I'll tell you. How I am, I'll tell you. What I'm doing or thinking at a given time, maybe not in excruciating detail, but I'll tell you. I can and will tell anyone anything about myself. And I wasn't always like this, but I noticed a shift in my freshman year after I'd experienced my third public panic attack. Now, if you've ever been through or witnessed one, you know. You kind of feel like you're gonna die. And it also kind of looks like you're gonna die, so not only are you scared, but you've successfully managed to scare the crap out of everyone in that room. Ironically, it happened in speech class. Onset, sudden, very public. The aftermath of a public panic attack isn't any better. You kind of feel like a circus freak, trying to figure out why it happened, recovering from the fact that it happened, dealing with all the people who watched it happen, and every single person that they told. People treat you differently, talk to you differently, handle you very delicately as if you might shatter at any moment. However, after that day in speech class, something clicked inside of me. Prior to that day, after a public panic attack, the only thing I wanted to do was curl up into a ball and not wish to exist anymore. But I came to the realization that I gave them a show. I might as well give them some plot too. Out of something incredibly difficult for me, a great thing actually came out of it. I became more open and more comfortable with myself, and I stopped caring about what people thought. And so naturally, I assumed I'd be great at the whole relationship thing, which is why I was truly stumped when I realized that I wasn't. And it wasn't until I came across a TikTok that made it all click. And I'm just as embarrassed to add that that's what inspired my whole speech. They say the key to relationships is open communication and vulnerability. Who was going to tell me that those were two different things? Like, when you think about it logically, it actually makes quite a lot of sense. The key is being open and vulnerable, as in two different things that you're doing to have a successful relationship. But you always hear them put together, open and vulnerable. I just figured that they were synonymous and that people were just being redundant, like when Starbucks started to sell chai tea lattes. Chai is tea. To be open is not to be vulnerable. Now, most people know the difference between being open and closed-minded. Arguably, even those that are closed-minded have reached the consensus that being closed off is not a healthy way to live. An open person is someone willing to talk about anything. Being open takes away the stigma that surrounds taboo subjects. It's the first step to pushing for our rights and our needs. As a society, we have a tendency to tiptoe around someone when they're going through something uncomfortable or something that we don't understand. And it was definitely true for me. People would tiptoe around the subject, asking me how I was feeling after the incident, my episode, anything to avoid actually saying the words. And what it taught me was that we weren't supposed to talk about it, that this was something to be ashamed of, something kept a secret, something to be neglected. Being open about it was how I got the resources and the necessities that I needed. To get help with it was to address it. Being open lets us know that we aren't alone and that we all deal with things. Being open takes away the stigma and the shame surrounding the human experience. But now the problem is that we often mistake being open for being vulnerable. And that's an issue when we're part of a generation that has trauma dump as a regular phrase in their vocabulary. Like, if you've ever had a conversation with a person my age, you've experienced it. The conversation is going all well and good, everyone's swapping stories, and then one person just proceeds to tell you the most horrifyingly traumatic thing that you have ever heard, but sarcastically. We get really good at being open because as long as we make a joke out of it, the insult or the scrutiny or the gossip can't get to us because we control it. Control. We need control. Control gives us stability and safety. As humans, we desire control. According to Psychology Today, vulnerability is defined as an intentional willingness to be open to uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Or in layman's terms, giving up control. There was an article by Marcia Mediation on the leading causes of divorce. And what they found was that every year, 65% of couples get divorced because of issues in communication. To further this study, a survey was conducted by Your Tango, a publisher focused on emotional wellness and relationships. And what they found was that the #1 complaint that men had in their relationships during their marriage was that their wives nagged and complained too much. The #1 complaint that women had in their marriages was that they felt a lack of sufficient validation and appreciation for their feelings. #2, men said that they felt a lack of sufficient appreciation from their spouses. And women said that their spouse talks about himself too much. These couples got divorced because they weren't listening to each other. When the female partners expressed their feelings or opinions, the male partners received it with annoyance. So if someone feels like they aren't being heard, it would make sense that when their spouse speaks about themselves, they don't want to hear it, and thus leading the men to feel underappreciated. These couples got divorced because they weren't able to receive each other's vulnerability. And I get it, being vulnerable, giving up control doesn't sound appealing. But the benefits actually far outweigh the risks when it comes to our well-being. For one, it strengthens our connections with each other. Not just telling someone how you feel, but showing them, letting someone in. Human connection is necessary for human survival. In fact, research at Psych Central found that the lack of human connection increased the chances of death by 50%. Social isolation has found to be more harmful on our health than obesity and smoking. #2, being vulnerable helps us be open to change. For example, when trying to break a bad habit like smoking, to truly recover, you have to find the root of the problem. Are you using it as a void, trying to escape? Maybe everyone you know is doing it. Digging deep makes the road to recovery possible. 3, being vulnerable helps us grow and get to know ourselves better. Not just being able to admit that you don't have everything under control can actually set you on the path to finding control. I can openly say that I struggle with control. Vulnerability, especially in the last few years, has been a struggle for me because my experiences with it have been forced. Having a public panic attack is sharing your most vulnerable state involuntarily. And afterwards, the need to overcompensate sets in, and so for the sake of my sanity, acting like I have it all under control becomes a necessity. I can talk about what's going on, but only in terms that make it seem like I have it handled or that it's a problem of the past, especially when I'm spiraling. That's how I managed to push everyone away. Being open became my shield and my excuse for not having to be vulnerable. See, if you're an open person, people just assume that if there's something wrong, you can tell them, and that you can show them that you have a problem, but an open person is willing to tell someone their story. They are not willing to let them in and be a part of it. And because of this, in my darkest moments, I was alone. We struggle to be vulnerable because to be open is to be powerful. We struggle because it's deep and it's personal and it's painful. We struggle because to be weak in front of someone takes an immense amount of strength. So despite this, I spend less time being an incredibly open person, less time feeling moments in with meaningless conversation, less time telling people my story, and more time letting them be a part of it. And just like this, in my darkest moments, I'm no longer alone. And now I'm aware that I have zero qualification to be telling you to be more connected with one another, and I may just be a 16-year-old, but as a 16-year-old whose favorite pastime is observing people, the way that we communicate isn't set in stone, but it does become habitual. The way that we deal with our problems and our stresses, big or small, and maybe it's because of society or from something within us, but there's a lot of shame surrounding communicating our own needs. Having a healthy relationship at any, but it doesn't have to be something big, like breaking down your entire relationship with your father and how that gave you abandonment issues. It can be something small, like telling your friend that you had a bad day at school instead of trying to pick a fight with them because you're upset. Being open unlocks the door, and being vulnerable brings us together. And that's the key to a successful relationship. Thank you.